You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
In My Humble Opinion talk show, Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor, Aaron. Still here, still standing. Taking Seville to the world, bringing the world to Seville. As always, Miss Max. So for this final hour, Miss Max, what you thinking? How you feeling? We gonna finish strong, Miss Max?
Always.
Like there is no other way. And I think a great way to do so, Miss Max, is by having our next guest in right now, talking about Dr. Kevin McDonald. He has been on before. And I'm glad to say that he's been seen in the community. He is the director, the VP over at the UVA at the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I must say, been very glad and proud to get to know him, and proud to see the work that is being done. When it comes to definitely that inclusion piece with the Black faculty and staff at the university and the engagement within the community. So you probably heard about, y'all, this free concert. You got to get a ticket, but it's a free ticket. Get it while supplies last. Dr. McDonald was just telling me that they're going fast. They're already filling up. This is the Black History Month Gospel Concert, and it will be starring Razor Anthony Brown and Group Therapy, with a performance by Stellar Award-winning Isabel Davis. And Anthony Brown and Group Therapy is decorated as well. I know you heard.
That's right.
I know you heard that Worth. You thought I was worth saving. So Max, everybody loved that one. And Anthony got more hits than those, but everybody knows that one. So it's Friday, February 11th, 6:30 p.m. at the Paramount Theater. And again, the Paramount.net or at the Paramount box office is how you can get those tickets. Doors open at 6. And tickets are available now. And this is being brought to you by your own Chucky Hayes Total Praise, Strong Quality Music, Black Professional Network of Charlottesville, and of course,
In My Humble Opinion.
That's right, them crazy folks you listening to right now.
Sir.
And by our guest, Dr. Kevin McDonald of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the University of Virginia. Kevin, good to see you. Thank you for joining us again.
Man, I appreciate being here, man. Appreciate the invitation. Great to be with you, Charles.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. And so I guess first, this concert, we'll talk a little bit more about your office, and the work, the great work that you're doing, and some other goals and initiatives that you may have. But this right here, this concert, what was the thought process behind this? Why did you think that this was something important to do?
Yeah, other places that I've worked. So this is my 6th higher ed move, and other places that I've worked. You've heard from Black faculty and staff, particularly at the institution, that said, look, when we come to these areas, if we're coming from a metropolitan area, we feel like we have to give up music and the arts. It would be great to kind of create a sense of belonging, a sense of community for music, for arts that have been so incredibly important to people of color, in particular, in this case, Black community members. And so, we tried at other places, man, even places that they said it wouldn't be successful. We just saw the community show out and show out, awesome. right? Not just from the university, but also the local community. So when I came here, there were efforts, man, and I really appreciate a colleague at the university, Dean Michael Mason from the Office of African American Affairs, who had been doing some things at the university during the month of January in celebration of Martin Luther King Jr. and the community effort there, a 2-week celebration. And I said, man, if we could bring some resources to bear, it'd be great if we could move this to Black History Month in February. We could bring some additional resources. And we were a little light on some of the things happening, but we were so robust in January. And then I just had some conversations in the community. I remember having a conversation, a lunch meeting with Tanisha Hudson, and I said, man, what does the community want? What does the community need? She said, man, we need some good gospel music in the community. I said, man, I can do that.
Amen.
I can do that. And so we tried to do this a couple of years ago. I'm actually with Anthony Brown, but the pandemic was even full force. They were not letting the events happen. So we had it. We had another event they were calling Ellington's Evening of Music and Poetry that is going to be in April. So keep the lookout for that. Layla Hathaway. And we had to cancel both of them. So this year, man, we still felt like it was touch and go, but we were just hearing from the community members that we need it. Right? We need this, and that we've gone through a pandemic. So many people have lost so much, not of themselves, just of themselves, but family.
That's right.
So many things, man, that this is an important outlet, man. And we know the importance that gospel music has had in the Black community. So we've just kind of gone forward unapologetically. And I will say, I wasn't sure what the community would say and how they would respond. Man, they showed up. They have showed up. I mean, a week out, and we already have sold. I mean, a week into promoting it, already close to 1,000 tickets. Have already been
There you go, Seaville and surrounding areas.
One thing I like to say, you make a good point about what we've lost because of the pandemic, and for a lot of people, when they lost grandma and granddaddy, they lost their gospel connection.
right. That's
You
fair.
know,
Yeah.
so if we can get them in there, right, you're gonna see a lot of tears.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
which is gonna end up to being a lot of healing.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
I have to.
Therapeutic.
Because I have to commend you, man. Because like I was one of those people who wasn't sure that UVA or any part of UVA, regardless if it was your department or African American Affairs or anything, really cared about what went on with the Black community. You know, not because y'all weren't trying to do works to get out there,
Right.
but if you do something and the community doesn't accept it or doesn't come to it and support it, then 2 months from now, they don't do nothing.
Right.
You know, so that's one thing that I want the listeners to understand is that when somebody develops something for you, show up.
Yeah.
You know, we're not telling you to kiss nobody, but be a pretty, none of that. It's like, hey, come out and enjoy what is set for you. The word Black is inside of it. The word gospel is inside of it for a reason.
That's
This
right.
is yours.
That's right. Yeah, and definitely, got to give props to your colleagues, over there as well. Dr. Michael Mason has definitely been a guest on here as well. Love talking to that
Yeah, that's
brother.
my man.
Yeah, the Office of African American Affairs, right?
Yeah.
And also Tobiah Andrews and crew for the Black faculty and staff group. So this whole engagement, I think it's maybe a good time, Ms. Max. I don't know if you had anything. I know Razor has something for him when it comes to, further engagement of the office. Razor, I know you had something you wanted to ask Dr. McDonald.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Max go first though.
Now, let me think of the question.
Oh, I got you, Max. I got you. Let me go first. Man. I'm sorry. I thought you wanted the alley oop. Don't sit there and look at the goal if you don't want me to throw that thing up there. I got you. Nah, one thing that I do want to ask you, right? And this is one of those elephants in the room type thing. You hear a lot of Charlottesville natives complain because a lot of the things that's being done are from non-Charlottesville people, right? So they understand. What is it that native Charlottesville people can do to let your organization know that they want things? Yes, you have your activists, and T, thank you for giving this recommendation for the gospel concert, but she's not the only person out there that wants something. Right. So what can people do to get on your radar? So like Max said earlier, it doesn't have to be the same voices that come to you and speak for them. What, if anything, can they do to say, okay, this is what we're looking for as a community? Yeah,
every community I've realized is different, right? And I know I've come into a community and working for a university, man, with a very complex history. I was talking to the president one day and I was laughing. He said, man, how are things going in the community? I said, well, it depends on the day and depends on the meeting.
Right.
I said, some meetings I come in and say, oh, you're from UVA, like, come on in. And other times they'll be like, oh, you from UVA,
yeah.
right? You know what I mean? So it's a 50% shot.
Right.
So one of the things that people told me when I was trying to engage in the community, said, look, don't do what historically has been UVA's MO in the community, which has been kind of come in and extract and take away. Come in and figure out and find and connect and show up and be visible, but figure out where the community is inviting you in to participate. So that's what I've just tried to do, man. Just try to identify from the community what would they welcome an opportunity to be, either a collaborative partner, a supportive pillar, just a thought partner, whatever it is, and just try to continue to lean in that way. I'm okay with the critiques of the university and its complex history. Those are warranted. And so also making sure I'm just not going in and trying to be, and not being defensive. I literally hands above board, just want to help, man, and just want to be a part of it.
Let me ask you this real quick before Max go. How, and I say this in the most respectful way, knowing all of that, how do you go in and not be a token for UVA as well as keep your integrity for who you are and make sure that you get your paycheck?
and make sure I don't get fired, right?
That's right.
Man,
That's
I'm
right.
telling you right now, you are asking, first of all, a question that hasn't been asked me before, but anyone worth their salt in the diversity field grapples with each and every day, right? So you're ultimately saying, how do I navigate these spaces when you know some of you and you as the house Negro, right? I'm calling you maybe an Uncle Tom. Others in your community are expecting even more, of you. They want you to kick down doors and take names.
That's right.
Right.
And you got a community that says, look, you coming into a history that we know about, and as a result, we're attaching you to that history
That's
too.
right. That's
and
right.
Trust is going to be hard to come by. And I'll be honest with you, man. I literally just go up each time and say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, because what I'm trying to accomplish is really what I'm trying to support what you want to accomplish.
Okay.
Right. And I try to do, and then I go back to the university and say, look, this is what the community sentiments are.
Okay.
So if we are trying to make progress, this is what we're going to need to do. And we need to recognize truth telling is important in the community. So we can't come in and say, I don't want to keep talking about the past.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about eugenics. I don't want to talk about, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You just can't do that and have them really, truly believe, because you can't tell a community when they need to stop hurting. Right? You can't tell a community when they need, when now it needs, we need to move to the neosporin. Right?
That's right.
You just can't do that.
That's right. That's
and
right.
I've just tried to make sure that I am visible, I'm authentic, I don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah.
Because this community remembers, man.
Yeah.
They remember, right? So
Yeah.
I just try to make sure if I can't do it, I don't say I can do it. Right? I just tried to be open and honest and true to that, and also to be unapologetic and say, look. I had a mentor tell me this one time when a black community at the university was really wondering and questioning him. He said, look, man, this is my community. Like, this is my community. I'm going to show up today. I'm going to show up the next time, the next time after that. When I went to last thing, but it gives you a perspective of how we're trying to navigate both spaces. I was at the University of Missouri. My position there was created out of the student protest that happened there in 2015, ignited by Michael Brown's death. So when I went in, there was a lot of distrust in the community at the university. And I remember going to a black faculty staff meeting. And after a while, the person who was the president of black faculty staff, he said, let's get started because we have a guest among us. So I looked around. I said, well, who the guest? Who's the guest?
And you the guest.
Yeah, they looking at me. So I took my same mentor's line. I said, let me be real clear. This is my community, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show up today, the next day, the next day. Like, I mean, but that's the stuff that we're navigating.
Yeah, that's what's up.
I mean, I got a quick thing to say, and I think that, in your efforts to help to better the community, you've included a key part of that, which is engaging the community. But I feel like what I also hear from the residents of Charlottesville is that they would also not only like for you to engage them, but probably the local officials as well. And I don't know how easy that is to maneuver, being UVA and local government or what have you. But, I think that I think that would also be worthwhile to speak to them and figure out how we can help, how we can be innovative in some of the things we can do, how we can really help to affect policy, because in the end, that is one of the key things that's going to help transition this community is the policy that's put in place. And so, I think that's my.
I think you're absolutely right, 100%. I've definitely tried to engage our officials. One of the things that I found coming to Charlottesville was I knew that there were pockets of collaboration, but there was also an extreme amount of silos, and trying to come in and say, look, I actually just want to partner. I'll bring some resources, human and financial. People would look at me sideways.
Oh, they cliquish. They're real cliquish.
Like, really? Are you seriously, for real? You know what I mean? And so the more that I would do that, and people were like, no, for real. I realize even in navigating communities, it's like the posse concept. So, if Charles says, look, no, I've actually, worked with him. He's actually cool. He's like, okay, well, Charles says you cool, then you cool.
Yeah.
So I've actually tried to build relationships, that way too. And I think that that's been helpful. But you're absolutely right. You can't navigate these things without making sure you're engaging in important conversations with your local officials.
Now, one thing that I do want to add, and I can feel Aaron coming, is that Aaron, Charles, and myself believe in having a seat at the table, right? Too often, like you said a couple things that made me feel like UVA builds black people to have their own table. Y'all go over there and talk, and then we'll bring one of y'all to bring back and tell me what you want, and then I give you a little piece of something, and you funnel this 3 things down to the 17,000 that want it, right? Which is going to be, the black community is going to look back at you, right? So is there anything that the community can do to better have a seat at the table as opposed to waiting to see what somebody brings to them?
You know, I think one of the efforts that I think has borne really good fruit has been the creation of the President's Council on Community Partnerships.
I never even heard of that.
Yeah, so it was born out of a few years ago. There was prior to my arrival, there was a report that was put out that was a collaboration between community members and officials at the university, based on how could the university build stronger partnerships in the community. And it identified different things that the university needed to focus on: jobs and wages and education and healthcare. And I know I'm missing affordable housing. And then, man, this group finished their work, and the president was like, look, this has been incredibly important. Can you actually form a council and continue this to help guide? And he comes to those meetings, but they are comprised of important community members, as community members and university faculty and staff. And that's been really, really helpful. And you can see not just the identification of a living wage, but those things that are being driven by what the community members have identified as important. So an example was the university committing to the building of, 1,000 to 1,500 affordable housing units, right, over the next period of time. And so now that in of itself is a positive, but the community is saying, yeah, but who is that? Who's going to live there? You know what I mean? And are we going to? Is this just a surface level gesture that is only going to benefit faculty and staff, right? So these are important conversations, but the community is helping to drive them and ask them. You see important pillars in the community like Joy Johnson engage and sharing input. So I'm appreciative of that, and I'm appreciative that we have a president that's leaning into the conversation. Doesn't mean we're not going to stumble or get everything right. But it's just important that you're at the table, you're having those conversations, and they're authentic by the community members. I think that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.